Hello learners, welcome to today's session. In this session, we will be talking about sustainable land management. In our previous sessions, we have discussed about the importance of land as a resource and what are the issues behind land degradation, what are the factors which cause the degradation of the land and how can we mitigate those effects. In today's session, we will be discussing about the importance of sustainable land management, what it is and how does it affect the other resources. Learners, if we discuss what is sustainable land management, let us go back to the definition which has been given by United Nations. According to United Nations, sustainable land management includes the use of the land resources, particularly soil, water, animals and plants for the production of goods to meet the changing human needs. Now here one thing you must remember and understand that there is a difference between the land and the soil. Land comprises of the landforms which may be mountains, valleys, plains, deserts. But when we speak of the soil, it includes the earth's crust. Land also includes in it the functions. For example, it may be an industrial land, it may be an agricultural land, waste land, cultivable land, residential areas. These are all land. So when we go for sustainable land management, it means that there is a proper utilization of the various components of the land, and that includes the soil as well as the water, the animals, the plants which are living on that resource, which are dependent on those resources, so as to see so that the goods and services are readily available, are taken care of. And this is also necessary that simultaneously the long-term availability and potential of these resources is taken care of. So very clearly the United Nations has described the meaning of sustainable land management, wherein it speaks about taking care of the various components of the land, and also there is no point of compromising with its ability to meet the needs of the human beings. Whatever the needs which we are getting from the land surfaces, they are not to be compromised for sustainable land management, but rather it is important to see that we are getting all those goods, the services, and also in turn seeing that they are also available for the future generations. The continuity of these services are made possible by making sustainable use of the land resources. So, when we say land management, it means taking care of the soil, taking care of the underground and surface water, taking care of the minerals, taking care of the soil microorganisms, also the plants, the animals which are dependent upon those land resources. Now, what is the importance of sustainable land management? How does it help mankind? How does it help the ecosystems? First of all, it helps in maintaining the fertility of the soil. In today's times, the soil fertility is damaged because of the addition of chemicals which we normally do when we apply chemical fertilizers in our agricultural fields, or when we dump the hazardous toxic chemicals on the land, or when faulty agricultural practices are being followed. Because of all these things, the fertility of the soil is lost. It is not that fertile as it used to happen when there was more of organic inputs given into the soil. So the number one objective of sustainable land management is to see that the fertility of the soil is maintained. It is remaining as such, and there is less, you can say, inputs and less contamination of the soil because of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and other toxic constituents. Secondly, it helps to conserve the soil biodiversity. Soil is habitat for various microorganisms. Various bacteria, fungi, they live in the soil. And in turn, they benefit the soil by providing all the vital nutrients. Learners, you must have studied somewhere about the decomposition of the organic matter. The decomposition of the fallen leaves, the dead parts of animals, this is being carried away by the soil microorganisms, whether it is bacteria or fungi. With the help and the function of these soil microorganisms, the fertility of the soil is maintained. So, when we follow the practices of sustainable land management, we also help in the conservation of soil biodiversity. There are millions and millions of bacteria, fungi. For example, earthworms, we know that there are organisms also which are there in the soil. For example, earthworms, we call them as the farmer's friend because it helps in maintaining the fertility of the soil. Likewise, rhizobium bacteria, we know that it helps in the nitrogen fixation. So there are so many types of bacteria which are present, and what is happening today is that when we apply chemicals into the soil, this soil biodiversity is lost. The soil is nothing, it is devoid of soil microorganisms and is consisting of all the abiotic components, which is generally not good for the fertility of the soil. Thirdly, sustainable land management helps in the production of food, animal feed, fiber and forest products. As we have discussed earlier, land comprises of soil plus the utilities that we are getting out of that soil. We practice agriculture on land. That means we get crops, fruits, vegetables, other eatables from the soil. Even the fodder of the animals is grown on the soil. You must have seen the pictures of the cattle which are grazing on the grasslands. So it is a food for those animals also. So when we practice sustainable land management, when we consider land as a useful resource and we help in its maintaining its sustainability, we are also helping the animals get their food. We are also enriching our food supplies and also maintaining the diversity of the forest as well. The different ecosystems like forest ecosystems, grassland ecosystems, they are all dependent upon the quality of the land and the soil. So if the land quality is good, it also helps in the flourishing of the forest, which is important for maintaining the biodiversity and also for fulfilling the various needs of human beings. It helps in the promotion of sustainable livelihoods. Learners, the livelihoods of so many people, communities is dependent upon land, whether directly or indirectly. If the farmer is doing agriculture on the land, he is directly dependent upon the quality of the land for his survival. But for those who take the minor forest products from the forest, or who collect fuel wood, or who use these ecosystems for maintaining the raw material, they are indirectly dependent upon the land resources. So, the sustainable land management also helps in promoting the sustainable livelihoods of the majority of the population in the rural areas who are dependent upon the forest and other natural ecosystems for their survival. Next, one of the important feature of sustainable land management is that it helps in maintaining the ecosystem services. What are ecosystem services? Biogeochemical cycling, energy flow, you can say minerals recycling, maintaining the temperature, maintaining the biodiversity, maintaining the food chains and food webs in ecosystems. These are some of the potential characteristics of the ecosystems and ecosystem services. And when the quality of the land is compromised, when unsustainable, unplanned way, when we are utilizing the land, it also helps, or it also disturbs, you can say, the ecosystem services. So sustainable land management, when we follow proper guidelines, proper procedures and proper principles, we also help in maintaining those ecosystem services. So in that way, the biogeochemical cycle is maintained, the energy flow is proper, the food chain, the links in the different food chains are maintained in a balanced manner, and therefore it helps to thrive the ecosystems. And lastly, but not the least important, it also reduces the chances of occurring natural disasters. In our previous sessions, we have studied about the natural disasters like floods, landslides. Now, these are directly related to the land. When the soil is let loose, the chances of landslides are more prominent. When the floods occur and the land is not proper, it increases the chances of urban flooding, it increases the chances of more sediment flowing into the rivers. So, the lands also help in mitigating the effects of the natural disasters. So whether in the hilly areas or the plain areas or near the coastal areas, if the land is degraded or it is not maintained properly, the chances of natural disasters become manifold and the consequences are more severe in case of situations like this. So, what are the objectives? What we are trying to achieve by sustainable land management? One of the important objectives of sustainable land management is to promote the cost-effective methods for land conservation. Maintaining the quality of the land and taking care of the various constituents of the soil, it is important that cost-effective measures, the traditional means are employed instead of taking some over-engineering and over-technical aspects. So we need to go back to our age-old farming methods, our traditional wisdom, to see that how we are able to maintain the quality of the land, and also we are able to see that the groundwater level is optimum, the soil biodiversity is rich, and it also, you can say, one of the important objectives is to see that how we are able to meet out the objectives with the help of cost-effective methods. Secondly, to document the information and technical guidance for effective management of land resources. With the help of various surveys, with the help of statistics, it is very important to see that how the land use planning has taken place in a given region. How much of the land is agricultural land? How much of the land is industrial? How much of the land is waste land? So, if this type of classification has been done in a proper manner, we have to document this information. We have to earmark, because in the coming times, we will be using and requiring the land for also our energy. With a given emphasis on biomass-based energy sources, we need land, we need proper land use planning, and it is coming with the help of sustainable land management, because it helps you to calculate the available land, to calculate how much of the land is required for meeting various needs of the human beings, and also to promote soil and land use classification. As I said, if you want to utilize the land sustainably, one of the important objectives is to classify the land according to your region, according to your country, according to the raw materials which are procured from the land, how much of the minerals we are extracting, where is the water table high, where is the water table low, which land is more susceptible for earthquakes. That also you must, that kind of planning is very necessary. So it helps you. The policies which are behind sustainable land management helps you to foresee the things beforehand, so that we can plan the land also in the similar way as we plan and use our other resources. And to maintain a database and web-based information. That is very essential. With the help of remote sensing, with the help of GIS today, we are able to have a kind of a concrete information on land resources and how much of the land is being used at the local level, regional level, national level and the global level. And comparative studies and analysis can be done with the help of all these databases. So why we are collecting all these databases? Because when we have something in concrete, we can plan, we can see how the human population is increasing, what needs will be more in the coming times, what are the uses of the land which will become obsolete in the times to come, and how with the help of this web-based information we can keep track of the land resources and make a comparative studies and analysis. Then with the help of this, the government can be advised, the stakeholders can be taken care of, they can help in the decision making, participation from the communities, and for the improvement in the formulation and improvement of the land use strategies. So governments can be advised, the scientists, the researchers who are working on that land, they can help in policy framing and also in the development of proper, you can say, strategies, programs related to the land resources. So in that way, the role of non-government organizations comes into picture, civil society bodies, even the private sector, they can come forward and participate in the land resources conservation and sustainable management of the land. And ultimately, it also helps in the implementation of Agenda 21, which has been set so as to maintain the ecosystems and to conserve the various vital natural resources. So, what are the principles? The sustainable land management is based on certain principles, and these principles act as a guiding force. They actually act as drivers towards meeting the objectives that we have just studied. So, one of the important principles is productivity. Land is a scarce resource. It does not increase as the human population and human demands increase. So, on that same piece of land, we have to see that our demands and our needs are met. So, we have only 2% of the land resources in our country, but we house 18% of the world's population. So, how we are going to see that adequate land allocation and adequate land resources are available for each person. So, productivity enhancement is one of the important principles of sustainable land management. Then stability, because land is also susceptible to different types of pressures, external, internal, and also because of the environmental pollution. So, to reduce the degradation process, it is important to have a kind of a stability. One of the important factors and one of the important principles is to maintain the stability of the land resources, protection of the resources from various climate related risks, which is very potent danger in the coming times, the disasters which are occurring more frequently now, the rainfall which has become very variable. So, protection against all these natural factors. Viability means ensuring the economic viability, so that we are using the land to get the goods and the services. So whether how far it is economically viable, and it remains so in the coming times, that is very important for us to understand. And acceptability. Whatever land use classification has been done, whatever the land has been earmarked, it should be acceptable to the people, to the communities, to all the stakeholders who will be involved in these activities and who will be affected by the use of the land. So it must be, so proper sustainable land management, does not only mean that taking care of the land in such a manner that it yields benefits, it increases production. It's not like that. It has to be viable, it has to be acceptable, it has to be it has to follow the principles of protection. It should be stable, because it should not be like that it is viable only for 2 or 3 years or 10 years and then it becomes non-functional. So that should be taken care of. The guideline of sustainable land management means that it can be achieved only through the collective efforts of all the stakeholders responsibly for managing the resources, and in this context, empowering the farmers and the local bodies, local decision makers is very important. We have also to integrate the economic benefits and the environmental advantages of sustainable land management, sustainable agriculture, agriculture intensification, that is very essential. And for this, the sharing of the responsibilities and collective action, that is very much required, because land is a resource which is mostly taken for granted, unlike other resources like water, air, etc. Because we are not, the urban class particularly, we are not directly affected by the land or its quality. So it is the most neglected kind of a resource, but it is the base of all the other resources, whether it is water, whether it is your food that you are getting, whether it is forest, the minerals from where you are getting the energy and the other things. It is a base of all the other natural resources. So we must understand the importance of the land as a resource and make suitable measures for sustainable land management. Now, another term which is quite similar to sustainable land management is integrated land management. And learners, it is essential for you to understand the difference between the two. Up till now, we were talking about sustainable land management, means using the land so that it remains sustainable for a long period of time. But integrated land management is an interdisciplinary approach which identifies the various uses of the lands like agriculture, industries, minerals, housing. These are the different perspectives, and integrated land management identifies the best combination of land management on a given piece of land. So on the same piece of land, if agriculture and forestry both are done, like agroforestry, that is an example of integrated land management. There have been so many cases where the same piece of land is utilized for agriculture, forestry, fodder growing, and also you can say house allocation is also done in the nearby areas. So this is integrated land management, and you can say that one of the important means of going for sustainable land management can be integrated land management. So sustainable land management is one thing, but integrated land management is a part of it. We can, it's a tool by which we can go for sustainable land management. So integrated land management helps in addressing the needs of the various stakeholders. It also evaluates current and the potential uses of the land according to the conditions in a given area. It identifies the spatial planning units and establishes institutional, legislative and the required infrastructure. So how we can relate between sustainable development goals and land resources. Learners, you must be knowing about SDGs, which have been proposed by UN and which are meant to be achieved by 2030. There are 17 goals in that, and in this context, we are seeing that how SDGs relate to land resources, how they help, how the conservation of the land helps in meeting the objectives of sustainable development goals. So sustainable land management can play a very important role to speed up the achievement of SDGs. Let us see how. First, SDG 1 is no poverty, SDG 4 inclusive education, SDG 5 is gender equality, and SDG 8 is decent work and economic growth. When you look at all these 4 SDGs, you find that it helps give opportunities for all. Proper land management and sustainably using the land gives opportunities for all. And it also helps in achieving the land degradation neutrality. It is quite possible to meet Sustainable Development Goal 1, that is no poverty, when we take care of the resources of the land and use it judiciously, scientifically. It also helps in achieving the inclusive education because it gives you an understanding of the land along with other natural resources. Help because, you know, when the land is degraded or it's not fertile, it is the women who are bearing the brunt. So we have to look into this, that because of the improper land use, the women, the gender equality is challenged, and it also affects the education and also decent work and economic growth. So unfavorable working conditions. when there is a lot of tiring work being done in our fields, and with the feminization of agriculture, which is quite common in our rural villages, what we are seeing is that males are migrating and women are working on the fields, which is very, very challenging, which is quite a kind of a hard work for them. So when sustainable management of the land is done, it helps them to go for education, to have a decent work environment, and in all, it promotes gender equality. Similarly, SDG, or you can say sustainable management of the land, helps us doing more and better with less. Like SDG 2, like zero hunger, we can grow on the same piece of land nutritious crops. It helps to fight hunger. It helps to meet the objective of SDG 1. It also promotes good health, well-being, like SDG 3. SDG 12 is sustainable production and consumption. It helps to achieve that also. Similarly, water efficiency, because we have seen that how land and water are interconnected. So it helps to achieve the objectives of SDG 6 also, getting clean water, sanitation, improving the quality of underground water, surface water. Fuels also, clean fuels, affordable, that is SDG 7, because as we have said that land will also be utilized for growing biomass based fuels in the times to come. So getting fuel which is affordable, which is clean, is only possible when we take care of our land resources. So in this line, there are recommendations like awareness, education, training, sharing of the information. This is something which is very essential, which can help in sustainable management of the land. So with this, we conclude that land is a resource which which comes in various forms, and sustainable land management helps to integrate soil, water, biota, the other stakeholders like farmers and those who are dependent on the land directly or indirectly. And for sustainable land management, information, involvement, empowerment and facilitation is very essential. Thank you so much.